Yeah, now here I am explaining the process of osmoregulation now. So, it's not fair, colleagues, for me to explain the process of osmoregulation without alluding to the diagram of the human brain, right? So now, we are saying now, remember we said that the brain is made up of different parts which have got different functions, right? So, under the homeostasis and osmoregulation, I've just indicated, you can see now, I've just indicated the hypothalamus and the pituitary glands. Not meaning to say that the brain is made up of these two parts, no. Remember, we have got the cerebrum hemisphere for memory and learning. We have the cerebellum for control and balance. We have the medulla for involuntary reflex actions, but I have not labeled them here so that at least you are not distracted by many labels, right? So I've just indicated the areas of concern or the areas of interest of the brain under homeostasis, right? Now, we are saying that suppose there is too little water, suppose there is too little water in the blood. What is going to happen? The hypothalamus, which is the control center in the brain, the hypothalamus, which is the control center in the brain, will detect the anomaly. The hypothalamus will detect the anomaly, right? So, what exactly in the hypothalamus detects the anomaly that there is too much or there is too little water in the blood? Are the special receptors which are called the osmoreceptors. The osmoreceptors in the hypothalamus will detect that there is too little water in the what? In the blood, right? What happens now if the osmoreceptors detect that there is too little water in the blood? They will send a message to the pituitary gland there, which is also a gland, an essential part or an essential gland found in the what? In the brain. The osmoreceptors detect the anomaly, and then the hypothalamus will send the message to the pituitary gland that there is too little water flowing in the blood, right? Then the pituitary gland now, in response to the information received from the what? From the hypothalamus, will then release a hormone which is called ADH. We will release a hormone which is called ADH. ADH is short for antidiuretic hormone. It's short of antidiuretic hormone, right? The antidiuretic hormone now, which is going to be released by the pituitary gland, its targeted organ now is the kidney. The targeted organ for the ADH is the kidney, and sometimes the ADH is called the vasopressin. Its targeted organ is the kidney, right? Where exactly in the kidney will this ADH cause some adjustments so that the water levels will go back to normal? Which part of the kidney? Because remember, the kidney is also a complicated organ. But the area of interest to us, I have decided also to highlight to you so that you understand how ADH is going to adjust the water levels so that they go back to normal, is the nephron. Is the nephron. So here I have a diagram of the nephron, right? The nephron is a filter which is found in the what? In the kidney, right? So now, I'm just going to highlight the major functions of the nephron. Otherwise, if I'm to explain everything on the nephron, I would spend the whole day here. But I'm just going to outline so that at least you understand how the ADH is going to cause some adjustments now. What happens? Blood will come through the glomerulus to this part, which is called the Bowman's capsules. So what happens? Blood is just going to bath here, right? Or to pass here through the blood capillaries here. And when blood is going to pass through here, this membrane is permeable, is partially permeable, or sometimes we can call it a selective membrane. That means it has got some small pores which can allow small substances to pass through, right? So if blood comes here in the Bowman's capsule, small particles, remember blood is a mixture of quite a number of components, right? We have water as a component of blood, we have some white and red blood cells in blood, we also have some hormones in blood, and we also have some dissolved minerals in the blood, right? Just to mention a few. And we also have some enzymes in the blood as well. So, since this part is what is partially permeable or selective, only small substances are going to pass through. And obviously, undoubtedly, you will agree with me that water is an exceptional case. Water is also going to pass through. Why? Because this membrane is permeable. Water, by virtue of being a lipid, it is also able to pass through. So in other words, we're saying that small substances plus water are going to form this substance or lipid F. And normally we call this lipid filtrate, since some of the components of blood are going to remain here, right? Now, the filtrate will go into these parts from the Bowman's capsule, which is called the proximal convoluted tubule. The proximal convoluted tubule. In the proximal convoluted tubule, you are going to find that these membranes of the proximal convoluted tubule, they are also permeable. So there is also going to be reabsorption of what? There is also going to be reabsorption of vital minerals like glucose and amino acids there, right? Then the filtrate will go through this part, this U part. As you can see, this U part is called the loop of Henle. In the loop of Henle, we have got this descending limb and the ascending limb. Descending, which means it's going down, ascending is going up. So the filtrate is going to move there, and in the descending limb, there is reabsorption of water, and in the ascending limb, there is a reabsorption of minerals like sodium and chloride, right? So now we go to the distal convoluted tube. The distal convoluted tube, again, it has got a permeable membrane. Remember, I've just drawn this diagram so that you understand, right? But in actual fact, this nephron will be surrounded by a network of blood capillaries. It doesn't exist on its own like what I've done here. But I've done this so that you understand. So we are saying that just outside and on top, everywhere, there will be a network of blood capillaries, a network of blood capillaries, a network of blood capillaries, right? So, what does, let me adjust the chart. What does ADH do here? What does ADH do here? If there is too little water now, the targeted part of the nephron is the distal convoluted tube and the collecting duct, right? So, if there is too little water, ADH will cause the distal convoluted tube to reabsorb more water because there is this membrane is permeable. It allows water to pass through. So water will be absorbed, reabsorbed by the distal convoluted tube, and then later on moves by osmosis to the nearby network of capillaries there, and goes back to the what? To the blood. Again, in the collecting duct, that is what is going to happen. More water is going to be reabsorbed again. So eventually we are going to have this substance E, or liquid E. Liquid E now is urine. Why? Because we are saying that essential water that was needed for the adjustment of the water levels have been reabsorbed, and essential ions have been reabsorbed. So here, that's where we find a little water with some waste products like urea and creatinine forming urine, which will later on collect in the ureter and pass out of the body. Right. So you see now, this is how ADH is going to work. So don't forget, guys, it started with the osmoreceptors in the hypothalamus. From the osmoreceptors in the hypothalamus detecting the anomaly, it went on to the pituitary gland, which was given the message. The pituitary gland, in response to the low water levels, releases ADH, antidiuretic hormone. Antidiuretic hormone targets the what? The kidney. Where exactly in the kidney? In the nephron. And where exactly on the nephron? The distal convoluted tube and collecting that, so that they become more permeable and reabsorb more water, and more water is returned to the blood. Then you find that eventually the water levels in the blood are going to be what? To be maintained. Right. Then, lastly, you also need to know what happens if there is going to be too much water in the blood. The opposite now will happen. But again, like what I said, the control center is the hypothalamus. The osmoreceptors in the hypothalamus will detect the what? The anomaly. Once they detect the anomaly that there is too much water or the blood is now too dilute, maybe because you have drunken a lot of water throughout the day, the blood may become too dilute, isn't it? If the blood becomes too dilute, the osmoreceptors in the hypothalamus identify the anomaly, then they will send the message to the what? To the pituitary gland, right? The pituitary gland now will stop releasing the hormone ADH. Why? Because ADH is causing the distal convoluted tube and the collecting duct to reabsorb more water from the filtrate, which is going to form urine. Now, so if ADH is going to be stopped releasing or is now not secreted by the pituitary glands, that means the distal convoluted tube membrane becomes less permeable, or its pores, they will close a little bit, so that less water is going to be reabsorbed, and less water is going to be reabsorbed again in the collecting duct. So you find that eventually one is going to pass urine which is more dilute. So eventually at the end of the day, the excess water levels are going to stabilize, so that an individual end up having normal water levels in the blood, right? Guys, I think for today, you are now able to define homeostasis and to outline the significance of homeostasis. That is the importance of your homeostasis. Then also to describe the process of what? Osmoregulation. From me, Ma'am Virginia and crew, I think we are done for today. Thank you guys for joining me in the class. Hope to meet you next time. Good day.